Here we are, Mr. Jorge Herrera. Welcome to the Ronald Earl Wilshire Show. How you doing, young man?
Thank you, Ronald. I'm doing fantastic. And
Well, you're looking good today. That's important.
yes, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Well, what we're going to do for those of y'all, this is the second edition of the little podcast that we started. And my goal with this is just to sit down and talk to interesting people, kind of give you their background. I've always liked, I'm a big advocate of starting conversations with people and seeing what happens. So, Mr. Herrera, he's a cash flow advocate. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But we're going to talk about how he came to the good old US of A, a little about his life, a couple of things about what happened when he started flying. If you'll enlighten us. So, welcome to the show, Mr. Herrera. Start out with, how'd you get here? Tell us your story. What's going on?
Thank you, Ron. Well, I was born in a small town called Armero in the department of Tolima, which is department is kind of similar to state. And this little town does not exist anymore as it was because there was an eruption of a snow-capped volcano in 1985 and covered the town.
Okay, so tell me again before you get going. Tell me again the name of it.
Armero,
Armero.
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 Yes.
Pretty good for a honky. So, What part of Texas is that in, Jorge?
Well, it's a little south,
South Texas. Okay. So the tornado, I mean, volcano came and wiped it out in 19 when?
1985.
So were you already gone by then?
Well, we had family, business, and property in the town, but we were already living in Bogota, in the capital. But I was actually already in the U.S. when that happened, so I watched it on TV in Baltimore, Maryland.
So what year did you come to the US of A?
Well, my first impression of the U.S. was in 1979. And what happened was I um, I didn't finish my career. I was studying mechanical engineering, and life goes in front of you. So a couple of things happened, and I quit my career. I was I was always a very good student from elementary to up to like four semester in university. But at that time, I thought that I was living a great life. Um, I had a mother that provided for whatever wishes we wanted. So at one time, I thought, well, what would happen if my mother, if something happens to my mother and she cannot provide for us anymore, and I don't have an idea how to earn a penny? So I started to help in the businesses, and that took time away from my dedication to school. So I actually lost three subjects on a semester, and I couldn't handle that because I never lost a subject in all my life of schooling.
When you say lost a subject, that means you failed
Yeah, I failed three subjects.
because you didn't show up, I guess, huh?
No, because I didn't study enough.
Oh, okay.
Because I was in a tough university, University of Los Andes in Bogota, Colombia, and that's not an easy university to go through. And at the time that I was doing um, my higher education, there was no any of the stuff that is today that you that you get the pass from the teacher if you are of the proper ideology. No, at that time you have to study and
You actually
prove
had to earn it. There was no participation trophies, Jorge. Is that what you're saying?
nothing of that. You have to earn it, be
That
able.
sounds kind of mean.
Yeah. So anyway, after after that I quit the university. We set up a store in a small town called Hirardot, and it was like a branch of the business, and I was in front of that. But there, I met a fellow that had started his career as an agricultural pilot, and we made such a great friendship with this fellow. And in about what maybe a month and a half, and he was telling us what we call hangar flying stories, and we were I mean we enjoyed a lot.
So, this what year? Sorry to interrupt you, Jorge, but yeah, I have to do that sometimes. So, what year was this to kind of give us some context?
This was around 1974.
So, several years before you came to the good old US of A.
Yes,
And so, when you say your business, was this a business that your mom started, or that it was a family business, or what
yes,
business?
yes. It was a family business. We were in the auto parts business.
Out of parts?
Yeah.
That means like if something broke down on the tractor or something, you had parts?
Uh, yeah, but not so much tractors, but SUVs,
Oh, okay.
like Nissan and Toyota SUVs. We had parts for those. So anyway, so that was around 1974, and this fellow received an order to ferry an airplane from Hirado to a town close to the coastline in Colombia, where there is more extent extends agricultural. So he left us, and he flew this airplane to this town. I think the name of the town was El Copey, and he got there. And a week later, after he got there, we learned that he had had an accident and that he crashed and got burned and he died.
Wow.
So that got me upset. And I said, I'm going to become a pilot and I'm going to, uh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I don't think this is fair that a fellow that it was full of life, uh, it all of a sudden just got born and died
So how, Jorge, I'm trying to understand why would somebody having a horrible accident, why would that motivate you to become a pilot?
because that's the type of person that I am. And
Okay. I can do this, right?
yeah, I think backwards in many things. So I engaged on a school to learn how to fly. I had a small car. I sold it to help paying for that career.
How long did it take you to learn how to fly?
Well, I was so enthusiastic with it that I did it. I did it really quick. I did it like in a year. Basically, I complete almost 200 hours, which is the commercial curriculum for a commercial license in Colombia.
Oh wow, and commercial, that's more than just like if you want to be a a single pilot, right?
Yes, that would allow you to fly for hire.
And actually carry people.
Yes,
So
but
what happened? Take us after that. You started flying, and how did you use this new skill that you had acquired?
well, the thing was in Colombia there are more pilots than airplanes. So if you are not well connected, then you might not be able to fly. So that was happening to me, and I didn't have any connections for flying passengers, but I had an uncle that he was very well connected to fly agriculture. So I did the addition on agriculture that it was about like 40 more hours.
So you took 40 more hours of training on top of your 200.
Yeah, but
Yet
this was to learn to fly low,
for crops.
to learn to fly on just like one. This is the height on top of the crop that the wheels of the airplane uh, go by. So it's basically flying on top of
The
the
ground.
crop, because if you fly higher, then the chemicals that we spread, they could uh, they could dissipate in the air, so the crop wouldn't get it. So you have to fly it very low for that.
So that was something that you started doing for a living.
Yes.
So how long did you do that?
Well, I didn't do it too long because um, it is an activity that is extremely critical. When we are in training, we are flying out of a decent airport with a nice runway. But when you go to the real world to fly agriculture in Colombia, the you don't fly out of airports. You fly out of a runway in a base that it could be a decent runway. But then when you go to the different farms where you're going to spray, the uh, the runway is just basically a couple of small trails
Cattle trails.
where you can see the wheels of the airplane.
So what you were doing is what we call over here crop dusting. Is that what they call it there?
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason I had my first accident.
I was going to tell you, tell us how that, because you've told me about this before, and I thought it's an interesting story. So, what happened when you say first accident? Are you telling us you had more than one?
Uh, Only two.
Oh, only two. Well, I guess that's more than one. But tell us about what happened and how you handled that. You obviously handled it very well. You're here, but give us the story.
Well, I I was spraying on a field, and there are two ways that normally a field can be treated. One is like doing a standard pattern that is called 90 uh, 9180. And what you do is when you get out of a field, you make a turn of 90 degrees to the right, and then you start making a complete 180, and then you normally align the airplane to go and do the next pass on the side of the pass that you just did. But pilots that have flown for a long time and that are they get to feel the airplane real good, they start doing maneuvers that they just get out of they get out of the field. They make like a half turn and they come back down, and that is extremely dangerous. But if you have the skill, you can do it. So I was flying the normal 90 um, 9180, or maybe now it's called 9270. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, I was doing the normal pattern, and I had the temptation to the other pattern, just to get out, made a half turn, and then come down again. But I started the maneuver, but then my common sense told me, you 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 are not trained to do that. You don't have the skill. You should better not do that. So I aborted the maneuver, and I went to do the normal 90. I think it's 9270 that is called, and I was doing it, but my indecision to try to do the other maneuver um, took away space that I had, because I was flying kind of close of a small mound, and and I had to and I had to increase the rate of turn, and I was fully loaded, so my airplane stalled.
Uh oh.
And when that happened, I just had time to say no, and I hit the wall, and then the airplane caught fire.
So hang on a second before we talk about that. So how high were you up, and how far did you fall?
Well, I should have been about maybe uh, I don't know, maybe 50 feet high, maybe 50 feet high or less. But um, when I felt that the airplane lost um, the lift, I felt it. I said, "Oh!" And
I'm not meaning to laugh at Jorge, but I'm guessing you were surprised.
uh, well, yes, I was surprised, because I was so stupid that I thought that the airplanes wouldn't stall. So I said no, and I immediately felt the crash, and the airplane caught fire. And from the time that I hit the wall to the time that the airplane stopped the slide, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 5 7 seconds, but that was enough for me to be cooked. And when then I tried to get out, and I couldn't, because I had the safety belt on. So I unleashed myself. I'm I mean I'm buttoning it, and then I opened the door of the cabin, and got out of the airplane.
It was on fire.
But the airplane was on fire, and I had a t-shirt made of lining, and there was nothing of it, just a little string. So I just pulled that string out, and then I that what actually saved my life is that I was flying with a helmet. If I would have not had that helmet, I probably would not be alive.
Because that so
Because
when the impact, you hit your head, but the helmet saved you.
I probably, yeah, I probably hit my head, but the helmet protect me, and it also protect my my hair in my head, not to not to be burned.
Not to catch on fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you catch on fire, right?
So when you got out of the plane, did you
yeah.
just take off running or what happened?
No, I was in kind of a hole. So when I look around, I didn't see anything but the airplane on fire. So I thought, well, what should I do here? Uh, should I just uh, sit here and wait to see somebody comes and picks me up? Because the um, the smoke of the airplane would probably bring some attention, and there were other people flying at that time, so they somebody saw my uh, I mean the crash of the airplane, and they advised the base that somebody had crashed, that they should probably come and try to help.
So how long did it take them to get there?
So they sent a jeep to help me, but it would probably took uh, like at least like 45 minutes
Wow.
because because my decision at the point when I was thinking what to do was I'm not gonna sit here. Is I mean the it was very hot and there was a lot of mosquitoes. So I said no, I'm gonna I'm gonna uh, climb this out of this hole and see if I can see a house or something that I could ask for help. So I started climbing to out of that hole, and there was very rough vegetation that I like brushes and things that I had to move away from me with my hands, but my hands hurt a lot because well, I guess I got them burned, and so I started pushing the vegetation with my chest, my stomach, and when I couldn't when I couldn't push the stuff, I will either roll over it or will go under it. So I would say that it took me at least 30 minutes to get up there. And when I got there, I was able to see the base, and I was able to see some houses, but they were too far. They were like 4 or 5 miles away, or the houses maybe made it, maybe I don't know, 2 miles or something like that. And and then I turned back uh, and look at the airplane, and what I saw, there was a jeep that it was looking at the airplane and calling me and trying to find me, and I was up there.
So
So
do you remember you obviously remember everything, so you weren't like dazed or you were still you had your wits about you obviously, right?
yeah, I was uh, I was totally in my senses at that point. So I saw those guys looking for me. So I yelled at them, "Hey, I'm here, I'm here!" And I started now going down. And I would say that what I did in 30 minutes going up, or maybe more, I don't know if it was like 40 minutes, but I probably did my way down in about 10 minutes. I, because now I had something to look for. And
Rescuers.
yeah, and when I got there, I remember that the guys were looking at me awfully. There were two guys, and they told me to jump on the jeep because they didn't want to touch me. And one of the guys said, "Oh, Captain, look what you did to yourself." And but well, I jumped I got on the jeep and they took me to the to town to a small hospital, and then they I went into a room with a couple of nurses, and then I heard something that it was very tough to swallow.
And that was what?
One of the nurses said, "Who's gonna pay for this?"
Of all the things to worry about, and they're worrying about who's going to pay.
Yeah. So I said, "Please help me. The company will pay, but please help me." And so they put me on on table or a small bed or something, and they started cutting my jeans, and I asked them for something to drink, and they put me a little gauze, a wet gauze on my mouth, and then I lost my um, I lost my senses there. I don't know. I guess I fainted there at that moment.
So, how long do you remember being in the hospital?
Well, they had me there for maybe for the afternoon because um, in the evening they transport me to the airport where I took the classes for agriculture. That's a commercial airport, and they had sent a small airplane to pick me up and take me to Bogota. So they did that, and they took me to Bogota, and then they put me on an ambulance, and they rode me to a clinic in Bogota, and I remember all that, and then going through the clinic and looking at the lights passing by, and then they got me on their on a surgical room, and you see that big uh, that big lamp with a lot of lights, um, and I don't know if it was that I lost my I fainted again, or maybe they drugged me to start working on me or something. But that's that's what I remember.
And so, after all that, how long do you remember how long you were there or when you got out? Or,
Well, after that, the journey started on a room at that clinic where I went to surgery like about 15 times,
wow.
and they would do grafts on me and cleaning and but from the time that I remember that I got to the clinic and I fainted, and to the time that I was in a room, that then I'd recover my senses, and then I started seeing people, and I saw the doctor, and then I started seeing members of my family. I was told by my oldest brother that I was like in a coma like for 3 days.
Oh, wow. And so,
Um,
do you remember how long you were total in the hospital before they let you go home?
I was 3.5 months in
Oh,
the
wow.
hospital.
Wow. Well, so let me ask you this. So after that was all over, you obviously survived it. And after you got out, what did you do? You didn't go back to flying, did you? Right?
No, no, I was not. Uh, it took. I was basically. I was not thinking on flying again. I but I didn't lose my stupidity because when I was when I was at home, that they let me out with a little, a few open wounds, but they instructed my family and a nurse um, how to help cleaning those wounds and things like that. And I was using a jacket that will compress my that would compress my skin, and I was also using a mask that I only had like a couple of holes for my eyes and for my nose. And but I remember that I was now walking and and doing stuff, but then I thought, well, did I lose my equilibrium? And I had a motorcycle, and I got on the motorcycle.
How did that go?
I It go fine. I was riding the motorcycle and it was fine. But since I was using the that jacket and the mask, I was riding around the neighborhood. And at the time in Colombia, it was very popular that guys in a motorcycle would drive by and shoot people and kill people that there was a reason that they 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 wanted to kill them, either because they didn't go with the program of paying them some money, or maybe were enemies of the drug business or whatever. So it was common that there were people ride on bicycles that would be killers. So I was riding my bike, and I used to see people that look at me that they were in the front of their house, and they would panic and go in and close the door. So,
You didn't know.
well, I at the time I didn't know that it was for that reason, but I learned later that that was why they were panicking. It was a lot of things that I I mean I use public transportation using my that jacket and the mask. And some kids would ask me if I was a wrestler.
You could have started a new career, Jorge. So let me ask and kind of carry this along. And so after you got through all this, what did you start doing for a living then?
I started repairing cars.
How long did you do that?
Uh, Maybe I don't know, 2 3 years.
And this is all still in Colombia.
Yes,
And was this still for your family business?
yes, it was an addition that we did to the family business because we didn't have repair. We only had the sale of the parts. But I contracted some mechanics, and I also did some um, like low um, or light mechanics, but it's a better term on that, like synchronizing cars and doing a tune-up. That's the part that I did, but I still put my hands on thinner to clean carburetors, because at that time there was not much of fuel injection in Colombia yet.
OEFI.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. So after that, how long before you came to the U.S.?
Um, well, I was actually in the U.S. Um, before my accident. Uh, and the reason I went because I couldn't get a connection to fly, and even with my uncle, they didn't have an opening for me. So I got an invitation to come to the U.S. by friends that actually um, they they went from Baltimore that they were living at the time. They went from Baltimore to Bogota, Colombia, and they took a machine to do the tune-ups. A machine that had an oscilloscope and had a bunch of things that you could
I've
plug.
seen those. They're big machines.
Yeah, that you could plug to the car, so you could get all those signals and being able to diagnose what was wrong with the car. So they came to our house and they rented a place to use the machine to do the business, but I guess it didn't work for them because they went back to they they uh, they went back to Baltimore. At the time, I'm talking like if I was in Colombia, and they left the machine there. So after my accident, and looking to do something, and that machine being there, so I just I mean, I got the manuals and I learned about it, and but I had studied mechanics uh, also, and so I just learned of the manuals and I learned how to use the machine, and we set up tune-ups for cars, but with other mechanics that I hired, we were doing other things for the cars there, uh, doing like brakes and replacing uh, some like shock absorbers and things like that. And I remember that we even did um, like a re-ringing of pistons on
The engine, that's pretty
yeah,
major.
on a six-cylinder engine. So that's kind of almost major mechanic.
Overhaul. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. I'm trying to keep the timeline straight. You were still in Colombia, but you had been here in the US before. When did you come permanently and what give us some information on that and the story?
Well, that's the reason I came back permanently is because I was doing the mechanics, and one of my school um, one of my school friends from high school, he visited me and he kind of threw me a challenge. He said, Jorge, why are you doing this? I don't, uh, I have never thought of you like a guy that you give up just because you have you, you fail one time, you fail on or you have an obstacle. I never met you as that kind of person. And
Challenge.
this guy got me thinking. I say, he's right. I'm going to fly again.
Oh my Lord. And this was after you came back to the US, right?
Um, no, this was after my fix. I mean, I came to the U.S. because I couldn't fly initially. So then an open came up for me to fly, and that's why I came back to Colombia, and then I started flying. But kind of early, I had the accident where I got burned. So then I went into auto mechanics to be productive. But then my friend visited me and threw me the challenge. So then I decided I was going to fly again, and I started looking for the position again, and I got it. So I started flying again.
And this was in Colombia,
That was in Colombia,
right?
and I was working on agriculture. I was spraying on some crops, and one of the things that we used to do is we take like a foreman of the crop that we were going to spray. We would take him up, and he would show us what was the parcel that we had to spray. And so I did that with one fellow, and he showed me the thing, and I landed the airplane, and I I think I didn't I didn't put the pass of the pass of the propeller to full, that when we land we should part of the procedure is to turn the pass of the propeller to full, and then when you get to stop or the even at that time we don't turn off the airplane. They load it with with the propeller in idle, or the engine in idle, and and so the accelerator is minimal, it's on idle, and they load the airplane there, and then and then we take off now with the airplane loaded with the chemical, and obviously the foreman, he gets off the airplane, they load the airplane, and then we take off again. And I think that because I didn't put the pass of the propeller to full, that was what caused the accident at that time. That I put full power, but I didn't have full pass of the propeller, so the propeller was not grabbing was not grabbing enough air, and the airplane was not taking off. So there was a fence at the end of that runway, and I hit that fence, and I basically fell on the next on the crop that it was on in front of that runway.
So obviously, what's going through your head? And obviously, it wasn't as bad as the first one. There wasn't any fire or anything, right?
Well, there was fire, but there was a little flame that it was uh, like in between in between the tank where the chemical is and the engine. There was a little flame, but anyway, I got out of there as quick as I could because of my past experience.
I was gonna say you had experience escaping plane crashes at this point.
Right, and then when I was looking back at the airplane, and I saw that little flame, and I thought, I said, shoot, I should try to extinguish that. But then, I remember that we didn't even have extinguishers in the airplanes, because um, that was a failure of the company, that they didn't have proper equipment in there. So I said, well, I'm not gonna get back and try to extinguish that with dirt or something. The heck with it. And it was painful to see an airplane that really there was not much damage on it, just that it had a little flame. But the flame started growing and growing till the thing then exploded, and
Fortunately, you weren't in it.
and that was and that was the end of it.
So did you the after that? So you're telling me two times. So after that, is that when you came to the U.S. for good?
Yeah, after that second airplane, I mean, after that second accident, I said, well, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. And, and so I quit crop dusting, and but I didn't quit flying. When I came back to uh, after I decided not to do crop dusting anymore, so I thought, well, I think I'm gonna go to. Uh, I'm gonna from Colombia. I'm going to uh, emigrate from Colombia or immigrate to the United States, and I did that, and um, I looked for the way to come to the United States, and I came with my wife and a daughter that it was 4.5 year old.
And this was 79.
This was no, this was in 1985.
Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit because we were already
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me straight this up.
at
This was um no, yeah, yeah. It was in 1985 that I came back with multiple visa to be able to stay and live and come back.
So in 85, what did you start doing? You obviously weren't going to do any crop dusting in the US. What did you start doing? And kind of bring us up because we're already at like 45 minutes. Uh, I, I wanted to hear about your plane crashes. I've been intrigued ever since I met you and you've told me about it. And I'm like,
Well, now you know.
well, but here's the thing. I wanted to share that story because you obviously either I want to ride with you in the next airplane because you're got all your crashes out of you, or I don't want to ride with you because you don't have a very good record. So I guess it depends on your perspective. But kind of bring us to today. What do you do? It says cash flow advocate. What do you do with that? Give us a real quick run around of that and then how people can get a hold of you. And then maybe we'll come back for another episode and talk more about it, but kind of give us a what
Well,
the cash flow advocate
yeah,
and
I don't know if we might have to do that, but let me try to go quick. So um so I got to Maryland with my wife and my daughter, and I did. I worked for restaurants, like being a busboy, putting the water on the bread. I also had a papered route. That's not a job. That's a punishment. That's because if you want to have vacation on that, you have to pay somebody to cover you. So, and that's a tremendous story that should go on the next book that I have to write about my life. So I also did some. I was doing tune-ups uh, the day that for a company that they offer tune-ups, and the day that what is that called, the space shuttle exploded with the teacher.
Sally Ride. Yes.
I remember that I was doing tune-ups that day. That was awful.
I want to
Well,
say that was 1987.
yeah. The thing is, we last 5 years in Maryland because it's beautiful, but that place is too cold. And you have to shovel too much snow. So 5 years was good enough for me. Like, we quit that, and actually, I looked for a business to go to South Florida, and I moved. excuse me, I moved with a tool truck business to Florida, and I had this tool truck for 7 years, from 1990 to 1997. Then I did auto mechanics for 2 years, and I lost my shirt with that. I did. I actually had to do a bankruptcy. I did real estate from 19, 1998 to 2013 in Florida. But uh, yeah, I had to do a bankruptcy in 2001. And then in 2013, with problems from the market in real estate that started in 2008, I actually lost my house. But now, just to tie it up to the cash flow deal, in 2005, I learned of a concept called the infinite banking. And I learned of that concept because I had a bad experience with conventional financing and qualified vehicles. Because while I had the tool truck, my CPA told me to start an IRA, individual retirement account. And that is something that is called conventional vehicle because it's approved by the government. And it's approved by the government because the government is the one that goes in an individual retirement account at a 401k. They take a free ride on that, and they benefit by half of it uh, from the person that owns that 401k or that IRA, because they work it, they put the money in it, and the government takes a free ride and benefit half of it. So I was very upset with qualified vehicles because of my bad experience in the IRA, where I actually lost money after putting money on it from like 7 years. And I was upset with conventional economics also because that IRA was based on mutual funds. So I found a lady on a networking that she said that she was helping families create a family bank. So I met with her, and um, in my deals with real estate, actually I had put some money after I had the bad experience with the IRA. I put some money on a pre-construction property when everybody was making money in real estate in Florida, California, New York, and Nevada. Those were the most strong states where it was crazy the money that you could make in real estate. So I bought this pre-construction property, and a year and a half, I had more than $100,000 in appreciation on it. I rented it for a year to escape uh, to escape short-term income, and the family that had that was renting it, they bought it. So that's why I had more than $100,000 in appreciation from that deal. And I was looking what to do with that money because I was not trusting qualified vehicles, neither conventional trades like Wall Street. And I found this lady, and when she told me about it, I said, that's what I was looking for. And I put a lot of that money that I had earned from the uh, real estate deal. And from there, even though I just went by what the lady told me, and when everything was done and approved, I got cold feet. But I investigated. The first thing that I did was I read this book, Becoming Your Own Banker, and that gave me peace of mind. Then because that book was written in 2000, and the my involvement was in 2005, and then I went on internet looking for pros and cons of that, and I found a lot of them, but the pros made more sense. And from then I said, well, I think that's the best decision that I made in my life in economics. And I started promoting it. But then they told me, hold on, you need to get a license. So then I took a class to get a license on insurance. And from then I've been promoting it. And I think it's one of the best things that people should be doing, because even banks put their money on it, on something called BOLI, bank owned life insurance. So this should be like the heart of the economics of a person. And from there, they can go on whatever they can go, because they can loan from there. They can invest on whatever they know that is going to be productive. And then they can take the profits back and put them back in there, because the money in there grows tax deferred, and you can take it out tax free if you take it as a loan, because a loan is a liability. So it's not counted as income. So that's why those things are so great. And
So, we're running up against you're my record so far. It's 56 minutes, Jorge. Uh, but if people want to get a hold of you and talk about starting their own bank, how would they get a hold of you?
they can look for me with my URL, jorgeherrera.com.
I like it. And we've got your number scrolling across the screen, but go ahead and give it to them.
Yes, jorgeherrera.com is my URL, and that points to my LinkedIn profile. And in my LinkedIn profile, in contact info, I have everything: my phone number, my email, my website, and everything that I have done. So you can contact me there. And my phone number, as Ronald put it in there, is 832-745-8347.
Cool. Well, listen, brother. Like I say, as you know, I started this podcast because mainly it was kind of selfish. I want to just sit down, number one, improve my listening skills because, as you know, I like to talk, but I'm trying to get better at listening. But I like people's stories, and I like the fact that from the first time I met you, we have a little mastermind on Wednesdays here in Houston, and I've always liked your story and your perspective. And to wrap all this up, if you had to give, I'm going to ask you a question. If you had to give your younger self uh, some advice, if you could go back 20, 30, 40 years and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Mm. Well, I think my first advice would have been, um, don't quit. Just accept the failure and continue, because that's a big regret for me. A big regret for me that I don't have that I don't have a title, that I didn't finish a career. Um, I mean, careers definitely that they give you an edge, because you learn more and you are able to exchange your time for more money, definitely. So that's a big regret for me, that I quit my career, because it was overwhelming, because I never lost one single subject. I was very good at math, but I remember I lost, I think I was maybe taking like calculus 3 or something, one of those high mathematics, but I failed that and two other more subjects, and I just couldn't handle it, and I quit my career. But
So you're saying the advice you would give your younger self was don't quit.
don't quit, yeah,
Yeah,
because
I'm a
because
big
friends,
advocate of that.
yeah, because friends that were not as good students as me, as I was, they had their careers, and they probably failed subjects,
They didn't
no,
quit,
but they took the subjects again.
right?
But I was stupid enough to quit and not just continue and take it easier, go slower and finish my career. But
Well, but Jorge, and I've always said this, and obviously this goes for you too, but you did a lot right, obviously, because you got to hear, you know. And I worked for a guy one time. I sold new homes for many years, and one guy I worked for, he said, "I remember the past only long enough to learn from it." And I always say even God can't change the past, but really we can change the past if we look at it in a different manner. So what you did
well,
and what you survived, it made you a better person and it got you to here.
Ronald, it is your fault
Yeah.
because I would have not. I mean, I confess, it's a big regret for me that I didn't finish my career, but I really don't think about it.
Yeah, and that's good. You remember it long enough to learn from it and keep going because who among us hasn't screwed up a lot? I have in my book the only real difference in us humans is our ability to manage our prejudice and control our addictions.
Well,
We've all screwed up. We all have baggage. It's just the enlightened among us choose not to carry it on our shoulder or wear it on our sleeves. So, I mean, we're all still trying to figure it out. So, I think you've done a great job,
yeah,
Jorge.
and I hope to keep screwing it up because that's
That's how
how
you
you,
learn, right?
yes.
Fail forward. So let me ask you this. Tell me something that I don't know about you. I've known you a good while. How long have we known each other? Like 4 or 5 years?
Uh, yeah, I think
So
about that. Yeah.
tell me something about you that doesn't have anything to do with your vocation, something interesting that I don't know about you that you've never told me that people might find interesting to know about you.
Wow, that's. I mean, the thing is, I have shared with you guys a lot of myself. So, um,
What do you like to do when you're just like killing time?
well, I I like to read a lot.
I was thinking that when I said that, asked that question, I said, I bet he's going to say that he likes to read because I do too.
Hmm.
Zig Ziglar said one time, he said, you'll be the same person a year from now that you are today, except for two things. And that's the books you read and the people you meet. So
Hmm.
I think
And
it gives you a chance to improve the value of your intellectual capital every time you learn something.
and I have spent time learning about our our mind, our mindset, and that's why when this pandemic came around, I didn't pay attention to that. I mean, or not that I didn't pay attention. I fought it. I fought it because they want us to get those injections on us and to cover our faces. I mean, our nose and I said, we don't even know how to breathe, and they want us now to use a mask for 8 hours. Come on.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, Jorge, and I think it's because a lot of people have been afraid to speak up. But as I get deeper and deeper into this podcast, I'm gonna be talking a lot about it. I totally agree with you, and I'm just the kind of person, and I think that's why probably me and you are friends. We think a lot alike. Is that I didn't take it at face value. I don't think there's any other human being on the planet that has somehow found the right to tell me what to do, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you're paying my bills, I ain't paying much attention to you. And so I agree with you. But
Yeah,
listen, we're at an hour and 4 minutes, so maybe we'll have to have you come back.
just let me say this.
All righty.
Most of our illnesses come out of how we think.
Amen,
They
brother.
are in our mind. And fear is the biggest damage to our immune system. So that's why I fought that. I I took the stuff that the stray guys say that we should take to prevent ourselves to catch that
Build your immune
virus.
system.
Yeah, and and you don't die the day before. You don't die when it is your time. So no matter what you do, even if you, uh, I proved it several times. I have tried to kill myself several times.
Was it your time? Because you know why, Jorge, you had to come and do my podcast, the Ronald Earl Wilson Show. But I agree with you 1,000%. I have in my book on January 1. Um, it says the most important battle you'll ever win is the battle for your own mind.
Mhm.
And that's another thing I've always liked about you, Jorge, is you understand that it all starts here in your head. And
Yes,
once you get that halfway under control, the rest is semantics. And you're right about fear. I mean, fear will cause otherwise intelligent people to do crazy things, even to the detriment of their own health and survival.
yes.
It makes me crazy when I see some of these things that are happening, and it makes no sense to me. But yet you still see it in front of your eyes, and it's like, how do I reconcile that with common sense and reasoning? So, no, I agree with you 100%. But listen,
And
we're going to end it. Tell people again, Jorge Herrera, Jorge Herrera, Herrera.com. That stands for Enrique.
people people need to understand that we are marvelous individuals. We have a mind. We just need to learn to use it for our benefit and not to pay attention to the fear mongering.
Oh, brother, that's a great way to end this, Jorge. So,
This
Ronald
is
Earl
Jorge
Wilson
E.
here,
Herrera.
JorgeHerrera.com. Uh,
JorgeEHerrera.com.
and
Thank you, Ronald. Thank you very much. I screwed up the end of your podcast, but maybe you can fix it.
no, no, you didn't. You can't screw this up. We're just having fun. So, as long as we're having fun, you can't screw it up. But no, I'm glad you came on. I'm going to load this up on my YouTube, and it'll be available on all the podcast platforms, Apple Podcast, and all the other ones. But as I was saying earlier, I made this podcast because I want to sit down and talk to cool people and get their story. And I'm really glad I've spent this hour with you, Jorge. We'll have to have you back, and we'll talk about more. Maybe we'll get more into the mindset and some of the things
Uh,
that you do with that, because I
that-
really like that at our minds at our weekly little gathering that we have. We talk a lot about this, your mindset and fear, and how important it is, and doing things and accomplishing things that will make you happy and that will add value to the planet. So. If you want to get a hold of me, ronaldwilsher.com, 281 395 1000. If you're somebody that's really cool and you have a cool story to tell, as I build this podcast up, my goal is to be the first person that has 1 billion people listen to their podcast at one time. So if you want to be on the podcast and you're cool, well, contact me and maybe we'll get you on. But thanks, Jorge. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you again. And we'll go again and talk about some other stuff. Thank y'all for listening. We'll see y'all again. I love you, mother, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.